hell of BITS Pilani, Goa. We thank you all for joining in on time. I am Vaibhav and I'll be co-hosting this talk with Palak. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them in the question box on your control panel. The speakers will try to address those when they're not speaking, and we also have time for questions at the end. On that note, let's get started with the talk.
To present you CAT Champs, a talk wherein we have invited our most accomplished alumni to give their valuable insights on their CAT journey, touching on the topics like managing academics, tips and insights for clearing CAT, and their valuable experience through the whole process. Their experience will also provide us valuable insights on prospects of management and business studies, which happens to be one of the most popular career options after college for many engineering undergraduates. On our panel today, we have with us Mr. Monil Mamaya, Mr. Chinmay Gokhale, and Mr. Lucky Kaul. We hope that this session clarifies all your doubts and provides the right path to pursue your dreams.
Our first panelist, Mr. Monil Mamaya, is pursuing Masters in Business Administration from IIM Ahmedabad. He achieved 99.87 percentile in CAT after graduating from BITS Goa with a degree in Computer Science in 2020. He is closely linked to us as he is the ex coordinator of ARC. Passing the virtual mic over to you, sir.
Hey guys, good evening. So it feels good to be here and a bit weird to hear oneself being called an alumni and a mister. So yeah, times have changed. So about me, so I graduated last year and I did my BTech in BE in Computer Science. And after that, I joined Oracle and I have a work experience of around 9 months. Following which, I gave CAT for the first time last year and have scored a 99.87 percentile. Coming to the CAT preparation part of my CAT preparation story, I started somewhere in mid-July or end July. So I suggest everyone to give a mock paper first to just gauge how much prep is required from their end. And I joined the INCAT series of time classes. And I used to write a mock every weekend, like on either a Saturday or Sunday, and used to go thoroughly through the solutions, like whichever question I made a mistake in, I used to go thoroughly through them. And yeah, that's pretty much how I prepared for CAT. And yeah, I got the score of 99.87, following which I had calls from A, B, C. So my target was only A, B, or C. I was not going to go for any other college. So, and I got a call from ABC and I converted A and B. C didn't take me for some reason, but yeah. And I decided to go for A out of this from A and B. So that's me.
Thank you, Monil, for sharing your valuable insights. Our next speaker, Mr. Chinmay Gokhale, is pursuing Masters in Business Administration from IIM Bangalore. He achieved a staggering 99.96 percentile in CAT. He's about to graduate from BITS Goa with a degree in Mechanical Engineering and a minor in Finance this year. I turn the virtual mic over to you, sir, now to address the aspirants in attendance.
Hey, everyone. Feels great to be back and been disconnected from the college pretty much for 1 year or more. So really, it feels great to see you all. My journey started around May, I'd say, when I started preparing for CAT. I went through a little bit of theory and, started practicing because I feel CAT is more of a practice-oriented thing than just going through the theory. So I had my summer intern going on, so didn't really find a lot of time in the beginning of May and June. Starting July, I did find a little bit time to practice and make sure that I was getting, all my weaknesses and strengths in position. And starting August, again, I had my PS2 going on. So from August itself, I was only doing the mocks, as Momil said. And the mocks are really something that you would want to focus on, even in the beginning. As he said, you would want to give a mock or two to understand your strengths and weaknesses and then shape your preparation in conjunction with those. So yeah, I did mocks right from August and November when CAT was scheduled for us. Post getting the CAT result, I had a call from all the top 6 IIMs that I applied, namely ABC and LKI. And I could not convert Ahmedabad. I did convert rest. And yeah, here I am joining IIM Bangalore.
Thank you for sharing your story with us, Chinmay. Our third panelist, Mr. Lucky Kaul, is pursuing Masters in Business Administration from IIM Ahmedabad. A quizzer of great repute in the collegian quizzing circuit, he achieved an amazing score of 99.86 percentile in CAT. He graduated from BITS Goa with a dual degree in economics and computer science. Over to you, Lucky.
Yeah, hi. Good to see that you address the other two as sir, जो कि दादाजी आपने मैं but yeah, I'm actually happy about that. Right. In fact, I was actually just having a look at the list of attendees, a few familiar names from my time in college. Right. So I am here after almost 2 years. Right. In 19, I'd gone for my PS2, and after that, I'd come back to campus only once for Tata Crucible. Now that you mentioned the quitting aspect, and then I never came back till today. So, regarding CAT prep, and I think this will be taken later in the later discussion, but just in brief, right? I took 2 attempts to make it to IMA. My first attempt I had a 99.23. I had a really good mock season going on, but something just happened, and I think that year for me was like South Africa, right? You do everything well till the semi-finals, and then you screw it up at the end. But next year was not like that. Next year was probably more like a New Zealand where the everything went well and even the day went well. But my preparation was at least I think my more intense preparation was really in my second attempt when I really put in the hours improving my math. Right, might sound ironic coming from an engineering candidate, but uh, at least the way I understand maths now, at least stat level maths, that kind of understanding I developed a lot just after my PS2. I had a 1 month gap between my PS2 and my joining. So I had worked with GS for almost a year, so now I'm here. But in that 1 month gap, the efforts I put in to improve the way I understood math, the way I understood how you actually go about solving questions efficiently, right? So that part actually I put in quite some efforts in May and June. That I think kind of paid dividends for me later in the year, and today. I mean, of course, after that, I did not get a call from Bangalore. I got a call from ACLI. I converted AC. I converted ACI. L I could not convert, but it's okay. You don't need to have 20 converts. You need to have that one convert that matters a lot at the end of the day. So yeah, that is my journey in brief.
Thank you, Lucky, for that insightful speech. Now we'll move on to the question and answer segment of this talk. Over to you, Weber.
Yeah, we will try to accommodate as many questions as possible. For the first question, we would like to have all the views of the panelists. Okay, so my first question will be that can you guys give a brief description of your journey from BITS to the IIMs, and at what point in your college life did you decide to pursue an MBA, and what were the motivations behind the same? Why don't we start off with you, Chinmay?
So I'd say the first thing that went into my decision into pursuing an MBA was probably in my second year. So it was the beginning of a finance minor. There was this open course called Fundamentals of Finance and Accounting, and that is something that I took up as a purely exploratory stint. And it turned out to be really good, and I thought I could, pursue a finance minor along with my major. That was the beginning where I got a flavor of what the non-core industry is like. Going through with that, I found my interest in those and pursued 3 internships in the same domain. One was at a startup in a product strategy role. The next one was as a derivatives trader. And final one was at Deutsche Bank as a credit risk intern. So what happened was these interns kind of gave me an exposure which may not be equal to a full-time work experience, but they were kind of enough for me to propel me into the direction that I pursued. And having said that, finally, as my fourth year started, I thought that I could give this a try. I had some decent vocational thrust. And if it would not work out in the worst time, then I could probably give it one more time in the coming years after, pursuing WorkX for 1 or 2 years. So that was the whole motive behind it. And it turned out, thankfully, to be good enough. And I turned good here.
Monel, would you like to add on anything to this?
Yeah, so for me, I didn't decide. I even passed bits without deciding whether I wanted to go for an MBA. So mostly my decision was made up during my PS2, which was in 2019, and my job at Oracle during 2020. So I had filled the form for CAT, but I had no intention of giving it seriously. Just it was a pandemic, so I had a lot of free time I had a lot of free time, so I was decided to I will give CAT. But looking at the seniors, bit seniors who were at Oracle and even in my PS2 station, which was a startup, there were some few bit seniors there who were at a higher position. So looking at them, what job they were doing, it didn't interest me. Like I wasn't much into technical. Means I got involved more into the finance, not on the management side of the startup, and also in Oracle. Also, I was more interested what my product manager was doing and everything. So that kind of made me take a decision. Okay, yeah, I should go and do an MBA. And I came to this conclusion like after I completed my bits, like I probably last year sometime around September, October. So yeah, it's completely fine if you're not sure right now what you want to do. Just explore everything. It's not necessary. And coming to the minor in finance, I didn't do the minor in finance. Like I tried couple of courses. I tried FUFA and I like the fundamentals in accounting wala one, and I tried DRM, and I failed. Didn't fail. I got a C in both of them. Probably because I didn't pay much focus to those. But yeah, I got a C in both of them. So it really doesn't matter which course you miss, whether you do or not. But yeah, miss just explore everything and find out what you want to do, what is your target, and then decide.
Yeah, Palak, you can ask the next question.
Before that, Lucky sir, would you like to add something?
Yeah, first you don't need to call me sir, and secondly, I mean, Monal made a very valid point there that at least explore. So in my first attempt, it was more of a FOMO thing. So I liked aptitude and I registered with time because I got a discount. So थोड़ा FOMO था and I thought okay चलो 10th का मैथ्स है थोड़ा लॉजिक चल रहा है यहाँ पे ठीक है let's try. So, but later, I think the whole MBA part happened mostly after PS2. I had an internship in finance, and then I worked with GS. So I kind of had a somewhat diverse set of experiences. And along with my quizzing, mostly I was a business quizzer. My interest was in business quizzing. So that so I was able to get a story around it that okay, it kind of makes sense to do MBA at this time to pursue management. Again, I'm still not. Very sure where exactly will I go after MBA, which specialization I'll do. I do have some thoughts in mind, but if nothing else, one of course you get to study in a great institution of the country. So if you get a chance to do that, I mean of course BITS is a great institution. So if you're transitioning from a place like BITS to a top IIM, that really I'm assuming you have even a basic target in mind. It kind of really bodes well for the student because the journey is consistent from between good institutions, and in one common thing in good institutions is the type of people you get to meet. So it's not just about the number, it's not just about the pay and all. I'm pretty sure at least when you leave bits 90% of students will not talk about the numbers and all. They won't even care about the placement report, but they care more about the experiences they had, the kind of people they met, the kind of trips they had. I mean, will you recall your placement interview or will you call your trip to Bali? No, you can. I'm sure you will know the answer to that. So do it for the experience, do it for the people. Career ho jayega. That will come. I mean, I won't be lying when I'm saying that even my batchmates that I am including only is my classmate. In fact, we are all worried at our ends. But at least one way I want to take it forward is do it for the experience and do it if you actually have some interest to actually explore the world of business.
Thank you. So I'll go with the next question. So when did you start preparing for the exam and how did you manage your practice, school or job with preparation? Lucky, you could go first.
So as I mentioned earlier, I mean, let's consider practice plus job only. So I told you that I started in 2019. More specifically, I started sometime in May. I had two attempts, but so my PS2 was in Mumbai. My PS2 was in Mumbai, and in Mumbai, the good thing is that coaching institutes in that area are pretty supportive of people, irrespective whether or not you have enrolled in classroom programs or not. Certain coaching institutes, not all. So they were very nice to me, and I was able to interact with quite a few of them. But anyway, see, finally, more than your mentors, it's your self prep. And also, my what my day largely used to be was that typical corporate work day in India right now in private sector, not in public sector. Private sector is mostly around 10 a.m. to 6 7 p.m. In non-tech it goes in for the 9:30 10 p.m. or sort. But typically, if we say 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., the time that will be most productive for you is somewhere in the morning, which is what was my case as well. So somewhere, this was especially on my second attempt. So I used to devote quite a bit of time somewhere in that 8 to 10 a.m. space. And of course, weekends were free. So weekends I used to regulate my prep. So on average, number of hours, right? If you want a number, I mean, of course, quality is more than quantity. But I took around 8. I mean, if I exclude mock taking, right? So around 7 to 8 hours per week, I think that's sufficient. That was the kind of prep time I had. And the other aspect was, again, my second attempt. A lot of times I actually discussed questions with other people. Other students used to send me their queries and all. And that really improved my solving ability because see, when someone else is sending you a question, right? This is true in bits or anywhere. If someone else sends you a question, it's very likely he knows the answer. He knows the approach also. But he most likely he wants to know if there's a better way of doing things. Is there a more efficient way of doing things? So that is the kind of endeavor with which I prepared whenever I discuss things with people. Where am I giving that value addition? So once you think that pragmatically, I think your inclination orientation towards the kind of problem that this exam asks, you become much better at solving that. So yeah, just to sum up, I became better at solving myself and spent around 7.5 hours. This includes your preparation, at least 1 hour of reading every day because you have to read a lot. And in MBA, we are already overloaded with enough reading material. It's barely 2 to 3 days in our program. We are already loaded, and let me tell you, if you can't read and comprehend well, there will be challenges both in the CAT and post CAT.
Thank you, Lucky. I would like to ask the same question to Chinmay.
So, as I said, my journey started around May. So, with PS2, there's a very job-like element involved, but at the same time, you do have some time before August. So, those of you who are planning to give CAT this year and have a PS2 in the first semester, what I'd advise is probably try to finish off the practice and theory part as much as possible before your PS starts. So in my case, my PS2 was at Deutsche Bank, so it's a typically 11 to 7, 11 to 8 kind of work timing, and that 8 p.m. can go to even 12 midnight at times. So as Lucky again said, if you're working in those kind of finance roles, then probably morning will be the best time in the weekdays that you will get, and try to put in 1 hour or maybe more of practice every day because it's a gradual process. So CAT is basically kind of a self-discovery process. You solve mocks, you practice, and you understand what you're good at and what you're not. You're supposed to consolidate on the ones you're good at and at the same time improve where you're not. And weekends are the time when you should probably focus on giving mocks. It takes 2 hours. During our time, CAT was 2 hours during our time. But if it's 3 hours, then 3 hours. And probably spend 1 or 1.5 hours at least in analyzing. Not just the questions that you did wrong, but also the ones that you did right to understand whether there was a better way of solving those. So yeah, try to finish off as much as theory and practical before your PS2 starts. And if you have your PS2 in second semester, that is better. You have a lot of time because then your 4-1 is pretty, well balanced. So that's something that I would say is I did, and that worked.
Thank you, Chinmay. Monil, would you like to add something?
Yeah, so for me, it was pretty chill. Like I started in like mid-July and July. And my target was, I used to spend my Saturdays going through my last weekend's mock paper, like what I did wrong and right. And as I Chinmay mentioned, I used to go even through the stuff which I did right to just know if there was any better solution to do it. And yeah, I used to spend, like, let's say there was a 2 hours paper, I used to spend equivalent amount of time analyzing it. Yeah, I used to spend like 2 hours to just analyze the paper. And on the Sunday, I used to solve one paper, like solve the new mock paper. So that was pretty much my schedule. And during the weekdays, I had my timing. My work-life balance was good, so I mostly had 3 hours after 7 in the evening. So if I realized that there was some particular topic where I was making mistakes again and again, so I used to take up that topic and used to solve those topics questions. And coming to the prep, I actually joined Time's NCAT series, which is actually quite famous. Like there are 2 famous series. One is of Time and one is from IMS. You can join anyone. I had joined Time's NCAT series, and I used to solve those mocks. So that's pretty much about my prep.
Yeah, that's great to know about all your preparation. Apart from appearing for CAT, did you guys apply for any other B schools or some other exams like GMAT? Also, do exams like CAT and GMAT require similar preparation? Monil, why don't you start off with this?
So I have a basic idea about GMAT, but no, I didn't prepare for GMAT because like the target of GMAT is to go for when you're trying to go for an MBA abroad, and that usually requires 2 to 3 years of work experience. So I didn't have GMAT in my mind. I just prepared for CAT, and there are other exams also like there's Z for Z and other exams. But yeah, my target was to go for A, B, or C or continue with my job. So I didn't prepare for those. I think Lucky or Chinna would be better suited to answer this.
Yeah, Chinmay, do you want to go ahead?
Um, as Monil said, it's the same case for me. So I did not appear for any other exam except for CAT, since even I wanted to, focus on the IIMs. But do have a basic idea about GMAT. I'm not sure how the content goes, but one thing I would like to say is even though CAT is something you can like IIMs are something that you can get into directly or probably even 1 or 2 years work it. And GMAT is usually used for some universities abroad which require at least 2 years, usually more. What I would suggest is go through the paper pattern if you're at all interested in an MBA abroad as well. And if you can appear for GMAT while you're in college, because that I think will be the best bet to go around it. So I would advise someone if they're considering an MBA abroad after 2 3 years to go through the paper pattern, make sure what is the differences between CAT and GMAT and plan accordingly.
Okay. And Lucky, so do you have anything to add?
Yeah. Like for second time, don't need to call me sir, but I mean, I have experienced quite a number of exams in my 2 attempts. There's CAT, there is that, there is GMAT. The thing with that is that verbal tension. The only thing with that is there is very nice, very ambiguous. God knows what the hell is going on section called decision making, which is something one can prepare for after CAT for 2 weeks. I'm not going to go much into it, but let me just say that it's a black box. It is as random as your PS2 allotment at times. That's how random decision making can get on the that. Okay. Regarding and one more exam, I did not take it, but I did prepare for Maharashtra CET. When I was a little skeptical sometime in April that I may not convert any of the IIMs. In fact, after Ahmedabad, I had not converted anything else until quite some time. I had actually started preparing for CET because, like I said, aptitude is something I enjoy a lot, irrespective of what exam it is. So, what, yeah? Yeah, for JBMS. I mean, for CET, the only thing I had was Bajaj, right? Bajaj was only. There are reasons, but yeah. And I took that in spite of the challenge that I'm not a Maharashtra student and barely 10, 15 people from non-India. But I had that conviction in myself that I'm good at aptitude. So I prepared for Maharashtra CET as well. Now GMAT, right? The thing with GMAT is, yes, it's for abroad, and taking the exam, from what I've heard from people around me, is preferable if you take it around 1.5 years before you're applying. So you, although it's valid for 5 years, there's a kind of a recency bias element that could work in your favor actually if you take it as recently as possible. And coming to the exam structure, see, all these aptitude exams, right? कोई भी आप ले लो, all these management aptitude exams, at the end of the day, they test two of your abilities. One is your reasoning ability, and second is your mathematical ability. So finally, this is what these two. If you are reading something, can you draw? Can you make basic reasoning out of it? Number one, and number two, do you have math skills? Finally, the exam testing that it does that. GMAT it does that. GMAT is little harder on the reading aspect because like GRE, right? GRE is heavy on vocab, although GMAT is not heavy on vocab. The thing about both the exams is these are set by native speakers of English. So how they understand the English language is a little different from how we understand the English language. And that kind of reflects in the kind of questions they set, the kind of explanations they have. It's usually a little more clear cut in GMAT. But then the math part in GMAT is ridiculously easy. I mean, if you're ready for CAT, math wise, you're ready for every aptitude exam there is. So yeah, so it's similar preparations, and then math you will be covered. So if you cover math for any one of the two exams, or if you cover math for CAT and English for GMAT, you will pretty much be covered for both the exams. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Lucky. I'll move on to the next question, which is what materials do you recommend to be referred to while preparing for a particular section? Please elaborate on preparation for each section like Quant, DILR, verbal, and logic. So, Monil, why don't we start off with you?
Yeah, so coming to the prep material, as I said before, I had enrolled for Time CAT series, and in that they also give material for like each and every section. Like for verbal, they give another, means they give separate material, chapter-wise material. That's also for Quant, and that's also for DILR. This is basically the logical listening part. So my major time was spent doing the verbal. Like I spent time solving the verbal. So basically, it's more about going through the questions. So in verbal, there are 2 to 3 types of questions. There is comprehension question. Then there is like a find. There are 5 sentences given, and find the odd one out of them, like which doesn't fit among those 5. So there are a couple of very few type of questions which they ask, and the best way is to just practice those questions and find. So I used the time scale material. And coming to the logical reasoning part, it's basically the type is like they give it's basically maths. They give a paragraph with all the data and something, and you have to, and there are 4 to 6 questions based on that particular paragraph. So you have to answer those questions using the data, like find the answers for those. And in this also, like the major thing is like there will be around 5 to 6 sets, but the target is not to solve all of them. To solve 4 of this, to solve as many as possible, but to solve them correct. Because if you make a mistake, then it's pretty much you have wasted your time and also, and you have not scored also. So that's a bad thing. So that should be your target, to solve as many as possible, but correctly. Accuracy is very important for in the DILR, and that comes with practice. So solve papers and again use the chapter-wise questions available in the whichever mock series you prescribe. And coming to the quant part, for me, I was able to solve quant very well. So I used to attempt all of those. In here, my target was to attempt all of those instead of accuracy, because my accuracy was being almost maintained. But yeah, solving all of those. So for me, and for my prep for quant was to solve as many questions as possible. So basically, coming down to my increasing my speed. So that's how I practiced for those, and I used to use times material for this all 3 sections.
Thank you, Monil. Chinmay, would you like to add on?
Yep. So as far as the prep is concerned, I did not avail any coaching series, the classroom series as such. What I had availed is the test series offered by both Time and IMS. So what they have is they have around 3 to 4, 5,000 practice questions, and then they have the mocks, as Monin said. So the approach I followed was, and this is very subjective, is something I'll always mention as a precursor, because CAT is something that is a very personalized approach, and you would want to make sure that you take an approach that suits your style and your strengths. So what I did was, post some practice, I realized that verbal was the thing that was going to take a lot of time, because one thing is it's a little difficult. It's a little thing that is something different from what you usually do, right? So as Monin said, I won't again go into the sections, but as far as the reading passages are concerned, you would want to make sure that the balance between speed and accuracy is maintained. And that comes only through practice. The more passages you read, you try to comprehend and understand. You move on to the questions, and then there's a series wherein you go back to the passage, come to the question. So that process needs to be as efficient as possible, because there are a lot of reading passages and you want to make sure your accuracy is maintained. Moving on to the grammar part, that is something that is fairly easy. So try to avoid any silly mistakes out there. And again, practice is the key for VRC, that is the verbal part. Coming to the logical reasoning part, the data interpretation part in the logical reasoning section is something that is a little different, because you want to make sure that you have focus on what kind of data is being displayed, the values. You don't make any mistakes in noting down those. The logical reasoning is something that is a smart choice kind of a section wherein you need to pick the questions very carefully. Now, for me, thankfully, logical reasoning was a decent enough strength, so I could solve at times even all the sections. So I did not really have to, go through the picking process. But that is very unconventional. I would not recommend anyone to do that. What I would say is go through all the questions and know your strengths. There are questions based on Venn diagrams, tables, and all, and everyone has some strengths or some weaknesses. So know your strengths and go in that approach, in a chronology that suits you. And lastly, quant is something that is related to JEE mains. So that should be fairly easy for all engineers. The only thing there is avoiding any kind of silly mistakes. It is majorly formula driven with some kind of analysis involved. So you'd want to practice a lot, make sure your retention of every formula and knowing what to use where is very precise. And yeah, there are those small tips and tricks that you should always know for solving questions quickly or arriving to some steps. And yeah, again, practice should be the key here as well.
Thank you, Chinmay. Lucky, on to you.
Yeah, actually, Chinmay mentioned something very nice towards the end of what he was saying. I'll add to it later. See, the thing with verbal is, the biggest, I did not refer institute material as such. The mocks, mocks everyone has mentioned. I'm assuming the question has not much to do with mocks. Of course, we'll take mocks. But the biggest thing with verbal is you should be able to read a lot and for a long time. The reason for that is you will be reading more than 5,000 words in that 1 hour of verbal. Across the exam, you will be reading approximately 10,000 words because logic also sometimes Mahabharat karta hai, thoda bahut. It often is the case that it's a Mahabharat, and because it's a Mahabharat, you get distracted and you leave the set. When in reality, it's actually a very easy set. And the entire there was this one set I distinctly recall. I think it was in CAT 2017 or something. It was a set around food items in a restaurant. Now a lot of it was just some story, which you could have just cut down. And I also highlight why reading and being observant in not helps not just in verbal but other places. I highlight that in some time. But yes, verbal, your biggest strength is going to be your reading. It's it's more than practicing question and passages. Is going to be having that resilience when you're reading because you have to read those 24 questions. You have to read those 500 odd words. So you can refer to websites like Guardian or Aeon. Aeon is a website that nobody heard of before CAT, but after CAT everyone knows what Aeon dot was. उससे पहले इसको पता नहीं होता. So 99%, right? So Aeon is a good place to read. The only thing with Aeon is they're very long passages, so you may want to just stop after 2 or 3 paragraphs and just summarize yourself. So reading a lot with concentration is key. Being able to summarize is key. These two things are needed, which, in my opinion, no material on VRC offered you. Your experience will make you build on that. I mean, see, it's true for all three sections that it builds on practice. It's like playing a game of cricket. It builds on volume. As you practice more and more, as you gain more and more experience. At the end of the day, even if you are the smartest person on paper, there is no substitute for experience. The person who hasn't grinded himself in the why do we why is it told that you should take so many mocks? The bigger reason you should take so many mocks is to build that endurance to be actually able to solve that paper in 3 hours or 2 hours, just a year. For logic, I largely refer to past mocks and I just practice the sets and all, whatever is there in past mocks and all. There are enough past mocks and you won't have enough time to finish it in 1 year at least. So I have finished 2 attempts and I haven't finished it. So I'm assuming एक साल में भी नहीं होगा. Right? And then, of course, Quant. Now, the thing with Quant and DLR, like I said earlier, that there are some things that experience teaches you more than material. Of course, material, Chinmay and Monita mentioned that they do coaching institute material. Now you can search on YouTube also, or you can just refer to your NCRT books of material. See, the theory part is not going to change. The theory part is your 9th and 10th maths, 11th से थोड़ा बहुत permutation combination based करो मत आता है. So the thing is that, especially true in maths, most of the Janta will know theory, but the question is that application part. So the question is where do you practice that? Now, does material help? Yes, but does only material help? No. The reason for that is if you look at material and look at mocks, right? If you look at the solutions, I don't know. I'm assuming people who take mocks, I'm not sure how many people actually take time to go through the solutions. If you look at the solutions, you will observe that see all sorts of people take mocks. So the solution that they actually make or they release will be for the median test taker. Now, with 34 questions in 60 minutes, you would ideally want to come up with better solutions. So your endeavor, like one part is material. Material for calm will not be for more than 1 month. Your major thing will be your experience, where you're actually building for yourself. Can I think a little bit more better than what the solution is? That will actually aid your preparation more than any material. So once you start thinking for yourself and try developing ways of solving questions more efficiently, and it's a rare luxury in DLR, but happens sometimes in DLR also that you can sometimes back work the set. Sometimes you have that one question where you will have in a suitable option you can eliminate and you can work the set backward from there. But you have to have that agility in thinking. So material is one aspect of it, but don't let material make you rigid in your thinking. That is important because in our school we are used to thinking rigidly. Textbook में रट्टा है मार लो. College also we are used to thinking rigidly. Textbook लिखकर रट्टा मार लो. CAT में ऐसा नहीं होने वाला. CAT में you'll have to think a little differently and be ready to be agile. And Chinmay mentioned about problem solving. So he talked about equations. So the thing with equations is now in school we are used to see school mein teacher, and this is true in engineering also, true in school also. In maths one, if you arrive straight to the answer, you're not going to get a full marks. You have to show the entire steps and all. Unfortunately, in CAT, nobody cares how you did it. What people care is did you do it. So therefore, if you reduce your dependence on those steps, can I reduce those 2 to 3 steps and save time because writing takes time. You're not only using space, you're also taking time. So if you can cut down on those, that will help you a lot. So material is only one part of the story. You have to work on the solving efficiency part as well, parallel.
Like it's great to know that you don't have to write steps for all this. So that's one
नहीं
interesting thing.
भाई कुछ क्वेश्चन बिना पेन के आते हैं.
Also, moving on to the next question, how did the engineering background help you guys for preparing in CAT exam? Chinmay, why don't you take this up?
So the engineering background gives you a push into the math section as first is being iterated more and more. So yeah, that's the most useful thing that I found out of engineering is because you prepared for JEE, you know how to go about math. So, but again, as Lucky said, I would like to reiterate on a point that he said on why practice is so important. And it may seem kind of a cliche because everyone keeps repeating it again and again and again. But the thing is, I'm pretty sure there are people who can get an amazing percentile by just practice. But I'm pretty sure there are people that there's no one who can get a good percentile with just theory. So I know a friend who did not do theory at all. What he did was he solved 50 mocks. 50 is a huge number. And what he did was optimize his score after every mock, and he got something like 99.9 plus only by practice. So even though that's a very extreme kind of an approach, that the point was to reiterate on the fact that practice is key. Coming back, I'm not sure implicitly how engineering helped me solve LIDR, but maybe because the way engineering is structured as a course, the analytical aspects involved in it, it may be that the way you develop your cognitive reasoning that helps during both VARC as well as LIDR. So that might have helped. Apart from that, from a specific CAT perspective, maybe the whole endurance. If you're someone who has diligently appeared for all kind of exams and gone through the academics in a good way, that is good because the same kind of discipline is required in CAT. CAT is something that demands high amount of discipline, and you can't just say that today I won't practice or today I won't solve a mock. That is going to hurt your chances a lot. So that discipline throughout 4 years is something that you have to carry and expand over for preparation in CAT.
Yeah, okay. Also, Monil, would you like to add on to anything?
No, it's pretty much like how engineering helps like in maths. But one more thing, like engineering teaches you the art of storytelling. Like I'm pretty sure by the end of 4 years, all the engineers are better storytellers compared to being an engineer. So yeah, that storytelling art helps you in the interview. So yeah, that's one thing which where apart from maths, where engineering helps us. That's what I want to add. Nothing else.
Yeah, okay. And Lucky, would you like to add on anything?
Engineering background, I doubt. See, I enjoyed maths in school. I especially enjoy playing around with numbers a lot. Numbers is one of my. In fact, even though I had zero connection with maths, I had actually taken number theory as an elective. So I really enjoy CAT type maths a lot, and I just love playing around with numbers, breaking it down, coming up with ways, as a friend of mine said, which will make the question set commit suicide sometimes. So I don't think that part was really fostered by engineering, but yes, I mean I could have had a slight advantage because we are used to, especially BitSat, right? BitSat is a much faster paper than JEE Main and Advanced. And bits are actually the CAT equivalent of all of it. You have a large number of questions to be solved in less time, and the best way to go about solving it is solving smartly. So maybe that experience might have helped. My basic liking for aptitude might have helped. But just the fact that I did 65 courses in economics and computer science, not really. In fact, my CS grades were shit. My CS grades are absolutely shit. So I don't think my engineering background had so much of a role as much as my liking for aptitude in general.
Thank you, Lucky. I would like to move on to the next question. So the next question is, how should one decide if he should pursue an MBA after graduation or do it after gaining a few years of work experience? So Lucky, why don't you go first?
Technically speaking, I don't think any of us is qualified to speak this. All of us have less than 1 year work ex. But see, this is a see. In fact, if you have few other work ex, you should seriously consider going abroad. The question is, one very important question is: do you want to work in India or work abroad? If you want to work abroad, take 3 years of work ex and get out of here. But if you want to work in India, then Now there are multiple perspectives, right? For example, see, out of post MBA, people tend to go in multiple domains. So, for example, if you take operations, people tend to prefer those with work experience. So, if you are a fresher or half a year of work, it's very likely they're not going to take you. They will expect more 2.5 years of work. So, but let's say you say consulting and finance, they're a little bit more open. They may, I'm not saying will, they may consider freshers, but or people with work ex. But you may want to consider that if you're going as a fresher, is your general profile MBA ready? So what are the things that are usually seen, right? Because see, once you get into an MBA college, your CAT score is irrelevant, especially in Ahmedabad, Bangalore, your CAT score is irrelevant because everyone is a topper. So wo cat wala part is not going to differentiate you. So academics is one, your extracurriculars is one, and your position of responsibility is one. So and then you have your social worker, whatever, or maybe you got some achievement, you got some award in school like head boy, something like that. So you will have to see how much of these areas are you satisfying. And if you need more, you think to make your profile well rounded, you may want to consider also. Uh, अच्छा, if you are extremely clear कि मेरे को इसी में जाना है, I want to go in this field, then yes, you can consider MBA as a fresher. But to do that, it helps if you do a few courses or do something to justify that. You can't just have one sweet dream in the night and say कि हाँ चलो I got to know I'm going to do this. It's a lot of self reflection actually. Deciding to go for MBA is quite a bit of process of self reflection. But now, let's say for example, one question that may come up is look, I got a really good package out of my placement. Should I still go for an MBA? Your current placement package should not be that big a factor as much as your interest in the subject. Standard bitsat query cliche, but फिर भी right. I mean, if you may be thinking opportunity cost, uh, but think of it from T plus 3, T plus 4. If you want to experience that sector for 1 or 2 years and then decide on MBA, that's fine. But if you think that okay, I went for placement just out of FOMO because I wanted to get a good number graduating, uh, but now I've decided no, I don't want to go. That's also fine. But it's a decision you will have to think about and do some self reflection and talk to more people around it. That it will take some time. It's not a one night decision.
Thank you, Lucky. Chinmay, why don't you go next?
Yeah. So the the self introspection part and whatever Lucky mentioned is crucial. I mean, there is no one who can do something in an overnight decision. So you need to think a lot, talk to a lot of people. There's a lot of times that we feel something is some way, and it turns out it's definitely not, and it's the opposite way around. So you need to make sure that you know how industries operate and have a general idea about everything. Coming back to how my decision was driven was, again, as I said, the finance minor, the internship, and my extracurricular opportunities, my PURs at BITS Goa is something that, culminated into a final decision that I found myself as someone who would want to pursue an MBA. Now, the question about being, directly and going into MBA directly or after WorkX was something that is not easily, you can't decide out on it quickly. It's something that retrospectively is very easy to understand that, yeah, I should have done this or I should have done that. But if you have to think for the future, there are few uncertainties. There's a luck and element involved. So I wanted to go for CAT. Let's see. I thought, let's see. I feel I'll be able to take it on if I'm a fresher as well. And I gave CAT. If it won't have worked out, I would have probably done 1 or 2 years of work and tried again. So I wasn't 100% sure on going into MBA as a fresher. But I did know that even if I get into it, I should be able to pull it off. So hopefully I will.
Thank you, Chinmay. Monil, would you like to add on?
Yeah, so basically it comes down to, like as Lucky said, your current salary or what is your current job, or that shouldn't determine. The thing which determines is whether means what is your target, where do you see yourself, and how do you want to reach that position. So that should be the only answer. Just to say, like so in second, so I went for the placements in second round in the second semester time, and I was the first guy to get placed on the campus in that cycle. So you can say my salary was really great, and by no logical means should I be leaving that job during the pandemic and go for an MBA. But I still went because I didn't see myself pursuing that job and becoming an engineering manager. I wanted it to be on the business side. I wanted to be on the product side. So yeah, you should be very clear what you want to do and it's completely fine. Like there are first years and second years who I know who come with the mindset that I want to go for an MBA, I want to go for an MS abroad. So I don't think that's the right approach. Keep an open mind and pursue everything. Go and become a coordinator. Go and try to become a coordinator. Be part of various clubs and departments and everything. I didn't have any clear idea. Okay, I wanted to go for an MBA, I wanted to go for an MS or anything. But I was part of everything. That's why I had a great profile, which helped me when I decided to pursue to go for an MBA. So be part of everything, experience everything, and at the end of the day, when you make the call, you will be happy that you are part of everything. Means you decided to participate in each and every activity on the campus. So yeah, it's just a decision you would take when you have some work, means you have some experience, like you have seen people working around and what's the career path that you will have if you are doing your current job. So that is the call, means that is when you will be able to take your call. So currently, for first years and second years, you should just experience everything and maintain your CGPA, get your CGPA as high as you can. And for the fourth is, look into like to see how your PS goes on. Like if you're going to join a job, then see how it goes on, and then take a call like whether you want to go for an MBA or not.
Just a point to add here, consolidating on what Monin said, it's totally fine to not know what you want to do in your first or second year. I do come across juniors who are like, I'm in my second year, I don't know what to do. I probably did not know what I wanted to do in my third year. So it's actually a good thing because, when you're confused, you explore. When you explore, you come to know a lot of things that were myths, a lot of things that were something that you pursued was a way, but it was the other way around. So be confused, it's fine. Explore more, get into clubs, departments, maintain your CGPA. That is something that has to be always a big, big priority. And that will help you decide. Don't have any kind of preconceived notion that I like this thing or I like that thing and I'm going to take a career. That's good to have a skill. It's good to have a priority, work on that, but explore at the same time.
The CGPA thing is really difficult, but I'll try to do it as much as I can. Also,
as much as you can, man. I mean, see, we are having experienced interview process missing on cutoff because of CGPA, and it does impact later also, right? CGPA. See, if nothing else works for you, the one currency that will always work, at least till India's population is what it is CGPA. Okay? Because they have to evaluate thousands of applications, and a very simple filter for them to just throw away a lot of people is CGPA. So, I mean, any mathematical metric for that matter, CAT or CGPA or anything with numbers. So, but if it's gone, it's gone. What are the chances? Bache and try capitalizing on that at least.
okay, and that was really insightful. And now, like a lot of people would be in first year and second year and don't know the exact how the admission process is done. So, like, can you just explain about what are the various rounds in admission after CAT and how should we go about them? Monil, you can take this up.
Yeah. So during there are 3 rounds. Not 3 rounds. There are actually 2 rounds. First is CAT, and after you give your CAT, depending on your percentile, your CAT percentile, your CGPA, your work-ex, and a few other factors, they decide on whom to call for the interview, and for each and every other, means they have their interview, and before interview there was something called a writing round. So Ahmedabad has a AWT, analytical writing skill round, and others have a writing analytical skill, something like writing analytical something.
Written ability test.
Written ability test. So it's for Ahmedabad it's AWT, and for others it's SWOT. So it's basically they will be in AWT they will give you some situation and they would ask for your opinion. And coming to what they will ask you, they will talk about any very recent news or any government policy or anything, and they might say, okay, this is the government policy which is going to be implemented. What is your view about it? So that's it holds around 10% of weightage for your final selection process, and then there's interview, which holds around 40 to 50% weightage for each and every college. So for like in each for getting a shortlist for an interview, CAT and your CGPA is very important. And while getting your final selection process, the weightage of CAT is around 25 to 30%. The weightage of your interview is around 40 to 50%, and the weightage of your remaining, like your WOT or AWT, will be around 10%. and remaining your profile, like whether you are an engineering student, what's your gender, like what's your work ex, those will have around 10 to 15 marks weightage. So this pretty much covers it.
I think at this stage of preparation, you shouldn't be really worrying about what the process is. Just focus on doing well in CAT and keeping your GPA up. Process. If you do well at your end, you will get all the calls you will get. You can worry about the processes at that time.
Yeah. So the only thing you should worry about is getting a good CAT percentile and your CGPA. So I think out of three of us here, my CGPA was the lowest. Like I had around 8.11 CG. And I crossed the threshold of 8 in my final year because thanks to the PS and the few reading courses and the project courses I took in my final year, I crossed the threshold of 8. But yeah, get your CGPA as high as possible because I know quite a few people who had a very good CAT score, like equivalent to all of us, but just didn't got a call from A and B because of their low CGPA. So get your CGPA high.
So the thing here is, one thing to add is every IIM, has some of the implicit priority that they, exhibit through their selection process and through the metrics. So as Momin said, there are different weightages. So you need not think about that right now. But what I want to tell you is it's an overall profile that matters a lot. So if you are someone in first or second year, purely focus on your profile and your CGPA. Profile includes internships, projects, POs, and everything. And do not think about the CAT exam as well as the interview process. That's pretty far away. If you're a fourth year student, the CGPA is something that should be pretty much dusted right now. And even though you can improve it, I'm not sure how quickly you would. So for you, CAT would be the major focus. Get as high a CAT percentile as possible because that is a significant, weightage even in the call process as well as the final selection. The remaining things will fall into place as you move ahead.
Okay, thank you. I think everybody has an idea now about the various rounds. So I'll move forward with the next question. So to what extent does your profile, apart from CAT exam performance, affect admissions into IITs? Like, does our academic performance, like our CGPA, affect our chances of getting into desired IIM? So, Chinmay, you could go first.
So yeah, this is a continuation of the discussion we had in the last question. So yeah, there are a lot of factors, and believe me, there are actually a lot of factors. Along with luck is a very big factor that usually works out or doesn't work out on you on a particular day. So yeah, the basic metrics that I look to at is the CAT score, definitely. There are a few, preferences for gender, a few preferences for other fields. That is something that is beyond your control. There is the academic estimate involved from 10th, your 10th standard percentage, your 12th standard percentage, your college CGPA. All these three should be, good enough. Now, 10th and 12th is something that is, again, beyond all of our control. So CGPA is something that is still editable and something you should want to work on. Apart from that, there's a essay that happens after you get a call. So the essay is around 10% weightage usually. And then the interview is the single largest stakeholder in your selection. So yeah, these are broadly, I think, the factors that are involved in selection.
Okay, thank you, Chinmay. Lucky, you could go next.
I think Chinmay has pretty much spoken on Molin and my behalf. I'm not sure if he would be adding anything new to it, but I don't have anything much to add if Monil has.
Maybe just one thing, like with the various activities which you take part, like I was the alumni relations coordinator, then Lucky had something going on, Chinmay had something going on in the college. So these are the topics which you can talk about in the interview, because I guess most of us who are going for the MBA right now won't have much work ex. So to balance that out, along with a good CGPA and CAT percentile, you can have something from your college which you can talk about during the interview, which takes away, the interview is going to be 20 or 30 minutes long. So if you can spend 5 to 10 minutes talking about your PO or something which you did, like Lucky was into quizzing and stuff. So something you are part of, like you're fond of, if you can talk about that topic in the interview, then that's the best thing that can be which can improve your chances of getting into the college. So if you're interested in anything during your college, it can be even football, like watching football. So just make that interest, go deep into it, and yeah. So just explore and make sure that you have some other interests also. It's not only studies and everything, but do a bit of exploring and have a few topics to talk about during the interview. Yeah, that is from my side.
That's really insightful. Moving on to the next question. What are the deciding factors in choosing a particular IIM campus over another? Lucky, without sir, you can go first.
The first thing is you should have that choice to make firstly, right? I did not have that choice. I did not have a B call. I did not have a C convert until very late. I had a 160 odd wait list, so फिर बाद में converted anyway. Assuming you have all the three, I mean it can be multiple factors here. I mean you see in top three at least you won't really go wrong. But I think one factor that does come in quite a bit is the campus culture. So at least what has been seen again, average denominator जो भी है, A is a little more academic, C is a little more chilled out, and B is somewhere in the middle of the two, like an average of the two. That's what has been commonly observed. Then what people typically have a look at is placements. I mean, it's well-known fact that relatively speaking, C has somewhat of a stronger footing in finance, A has somewhat of a stronger footing in consulting, somewhat. But again, these are average observations, these are subjective. I think first, I mean, there's so many factors that go in, but I think finally you should check out culture is important because you're going to be there for 2 years. You have to know the kind of people you will be interacting with. Also, A and B are notorious for having a lot of CA candidates, but I don't notice that positive negatively. A lot of CA candidates do tend to get an A and B. So yeah, I mean, one is culture, location, not really. Placements also, I won't say so much. It's I mean, if you're a fresher, yes, people think B or C is a better choice because they are relatively more freshers. So, but yeah, I mean, the biggest factor is first be in that dilemma, then or trilemma, then maybe you can explore. I mean, I think asking that question in July is too early, to be very honest.
Yeah, Mohan, would you like to add on to anything?
Yeah, same. Like, well, means first, prepare for your CAT and think about this. But if you're thinking like you want to go for finance, like you're damn sure that you are an engineer, you want to go for finance, then I know like there was one person who left A for C just because he was sure he wanted to go for finance. So as Lucky said, there are quite a few CAs who end up getting into A and B. That's not the case for C because they gave a very high weightage on CAT percentile. So there are quite the number of engineers are quite huge in C. So for getting a finance job in C is much easier compared to A. But at the end of the day, all the three campuses are almost have same placement. Same companies come to the campus and they have same placements. So yeah, it's almost similar for all the three campuses are on the same level. It comes down to like whether you have a choice or not. So yeah, first let's hope you guys have that choice, and then maybe you can call us next year sometime and we will discuss कि कौन सा जाना चाहिए, कौन सा नहीं जाना चाहिए.
Also, when he says they are pretty much the same, they're actually pretty much the same. It is not on Bitside Puri that you say Pilani go Hyderabad are the same. It is not that wala same. It is actually the three are the same.
It's actually the same.
Yeah, that was really hurtful. But yeah, Chinmay, do you have anything to say?
No, pretty much all the real stuff and the jokes have been summed up. So yeah, keep your Quora, Reddit research a little away, focus on CAT, and you have enough time to research on the IIMs and the specifics later.
Okay. So the next question: what backup options did you have in mind while preparing for the CAT? Monil, why don't you go first?
Yeah, my backup job option was my job. I had a good job, so yeah, that was my backup option. And if I wanted to go for an MBA, I would try once again next year. But yeah, but I don't go with the set of like you want to have a backup option. Just give your best and see how it plays out.
Lucky?
Backup options, I was already in a job, but backup option, if I did not convert, probably I would have left my job and maybe explored certain other opportunities. Long list, but okay, I won't get into that. But yes, I may have looked out certain other opportunities. I have my CFA L1 also coming up. I may have taken that, and then maybe after my result, I may have pitched for certain other opportunities.
Chinmay?
The backup options for me were a couple of placement, endeavors that I pursued along with my interview preparation. So I did have a couple of jobs that, I would have gone to if I wouldn't have made it to IIM. And then I've probably given CAT or some other exam later, 1 or 2 years later, and then decided based on that. So yeah, I did have options. It's important to have options, but as Model said, don't let them distract you. There's always a plan B, but don't make sure that it doesn't distract you from a plan A. So, yeah.
That's really insightful. Moving on to the next question. Along with your engineering courses, how can we orient ourselves academically to pursue management studies? Chinmay, you can go first.
To see. So I'm someone who hasn't actually experienced management studies right now, so I may not be the perfect person to answer this question. But from what I've heard, apart from the CGPA and every discussion we had, a general, instinct to understand how things work, how businesses work, how a little bit on economics, finance is something that is important because for an MBA, all these become general knowledge at some point in time. So you would want to build that process. That helps in interviews, but interviews is something that is a short-term process. In general, as well, you'd want to know a little bit over these things. And if you don't like these things, then probably you would want to consider whether an MBA is the right choice for you, because that's the way it's going to be in the future. So you would want to do that. Apart from that, some kind of projects that you may pursue, really show if you can delve into a matter deep enough. So it's a balance between the width and the depth that you achieve, and both are equally important. So through all your 4 years or how many ever years you have left at BITS, if you can make sure you have both the width and the depth required, then probably you're in a good position to pursue an MBA.
Moving on to Lucky.
I mean, yes, finance man would be a good step. Online course would be a good step, but orient ourselves academically to pursue management studies. I think more than academically, it's about having your experiences, because academically you may not get a lot of chances as you may with your experience. So off late, I think consulting and finance seems to be quite a fad on campus. With your 180 DC. In my time, it was pretty much a fledgling. It was in its infancy. Now I've been hearing that they're getting actual consulting projects and so on. Every other person LinkedIn, I'm seeing there's some connection with either 180 DC or I mean, of course, there are people in Wall Street also, or an actor still like a social initiative. The question is, see, management studies, at least a very bird's eye view, at the end of the day, is about people skills. So where are you inclining yourself to tell that, okay, I will be able to work collaboratively in teams? Where am I at a position where I can work in a team together, but I can also contribute individually? That dynamic is quite a challenge to manage. Your earliest experience in BIT should have probably been your TRW assignment, where you're working in groups of 5 or 6, that to which a faculty assigned you, and then you have to work your way around. So try getting more experiences. Academically, you may not have a lot of chances. Maybe humanities, you get barely 3-4 courses. Try getting more experiences. Try talking to people. If you can get an internship, that would be better. So academically, I don't have much to say, but try getting more experiences. That would help you quite a bit.
Yeah, Chinmay, do you have anything to say about this?
I think Monil is the one as well.
Yeah. I don't have. Yeah, it's not an issue. So I don't have anything to add much. There are not many. Minor in finance definitely helps to show that you are interested. You are interested in finance, but there are not many chances. Like just how Chinmay said, the width and the depth matters. So just like you should know about the general things going around in the world and stuff. You shouldn't be like just when you get a shortlist for the interview, you say, I will read the newspaper, and I will from today I will know all this stuff. I will keep an eye for it. That it doesn't work out that way. You should be aware about the things which are happening in the world and have an opinion. Have your own opinion, not someone else's opinion or not something you read. Have your own opinion about any issue that's going on. That's how you can, I think, prepare for the interview for MBA. I don't know. I have any answer for being ready for it academically, but yeah, this is how you can orient yourself for an MBA during the 4 years of your BITS.
More than academically, one thing you can do is, I still remember in my third year when I was a part of clubs and departments. I had academics and some hobbies. At some point it became really tough to manage everything, and a typical day would be lectures, some kind of relaxation studies, and meetings. 2 a.m. you sleep, you wake up, lectures, and it goes on. So, at some point it was so difficult managing time. But now that I think about it, right, the last 1 week that we've had, and I'm pretty sure Monil and Lucky will be smiling when I say this, has been probably one of the most busiest weeks we've ever had. And that amount of rigor is something that is going to be throughout MBA. So I think time management is one thing that if you can somehow learn through your BITS life, in some or the other way, make yourself busy or make sure you have a schedule, that will help you more than any kind of academic achievement as well. So try to focus on that.
By the way, just to add on, Molin and I are awake since 8:45 attending Zoom meetings. The total amount of break time we have got in the last 12 hours is 30 minutes.
Okay, so I think Chinmay, you made a reference before about the coaching institutes. So I would like to ask you: is joining coaching institutes recommended for the preparation of CAT?
Now there are two product options that coaching institutes usually offer you. One is the actual correspondence course, which either happens in a classroom mode or through a video recorded lectures online. The second one is the mock test series that everyone talks about. So I'm not sure if the coaching institute is something which is a must, because I know a lot of people who just took the mocks. But I feel the mocks are almost a must, because as I said, CAT is something that is purely practice oriented after some point in time. And the more mocks you have exposure to, the more quality questions that you have exposure to is something that helps. Because even though you may be able to solve 10 questions perfectly, it's not about solving 10 questions, right? Now, CAT is something, there are two types of exams. Okay. So one is like a JEE Advanced and one is a BitSat kind of an exam. BitSat is something that if I give you 1 week to sit and solve, you will be able to solve almost every question. Whereas JEE Advanced is something that probably I won't be able to solve the whole paper in 10 years, right? So CAT is more on the BitSat side, wherein if I give you enough time, you will be able to solve most questions. The major issue is the time constraint. So to optimize that, to make sure you have all those tips, tricks, quickness that is required, along with accuracy, mocks are something that is the way to go after a minimal theory preparation in the beginning, which is important to some extent, but again, mocks.
Yeah, Monil, you made a reference on newspapers. So, what kind of articles and newspapers did you read for preparing for VA or RC section?
Not for VARC section particularly, but yeah, I read this. I used to refer. There's something called in shorts. So obviously the newspaper delivery on the campus is a bit sketchy. So it's better if you use some online resource. I used to go through the in shorts. I used to read every day about it. Like it covers most of the news in shorts. And then there's something called fin shorts, which is like really interesting. So and these two were like the things which I used to read about. And in general, my group also was like we used to discuss about the politics and football and everything which was going around in the world. So yeah, talk with your friends like who are into this, not only just about some random shit. They talk about things that matter, and I shouldn't use that word in the official meeting, but yeah. So talk about things that matter with your friends. Discuss. It could be football, it could be politics, it could be anything. And yeah, just read about the news. Like just don't go through Instagram and Facebook. Read about in shorts, and yeah, just you use those resources. And yeah, there are some YouTube channels also which might be helpful. So you can use those resources.
One thing here Monil mentioned is about the football or something that you follow. Now, even though a lot of people have some kind of followership when it comes to sports or politics, the real thing is how in depth do you go into that as well. Now, this is something that people ignore. So if I'm someone who likes cricket, it's not only enough for me to know who is Sachin Tendulkar or who is Virat Kohli. I should know in-depth analysis on what cricket is. And this helped me because my Bangalore interview, which lasted for 35 minutes, 10 minutes was based on cricket. So we discussed about what is a good batsman, what is the rules for LBW, what do you think about the new rules ICC bought and all. And it was good that I knew about it. So even though it is something as trivial as hobbies, make sure you have a good amount of depth and it is not a superficial thing.
Okay, that is very insightful. Moving on to the next question. What are the factors to consider while targeting IIM, ABC versus ISB, say through Young Leaders Program or Early Entry option? Lucky, why don't you go first?
I did not apply through YLP, but factors to consider, I mean, try for everything. At least try for YLP, try kar lo. I mean, if you're comparing, if you're doing ABC versus ISB, I think, of course, see, there are other parameters you can have, like financial constraints and so on. Like CAT exam costs only 2,000 rupees and you're done. You won't be charged a single rupee more for any process. Whereas ISB asks for a separate application fee. I'm assuming that finances are not an issue. If finances are not an issue, target whatever you can. See, get the converts first, then take a decision. Don't take a decision before you have the converts. if in July you're going to tell that I will apply for ABC and ISB, I will pick and decide, I don't think that's a prudent thing to do. And anyway, for ISB, you have to take the GMAT, right? So if you are preparing, you might as well prepare for both, अच्छे से, because like I said earlier also, if you prepare English for GMAT and maths for CAT, you'll pretty much be covered for both the exams. So if finances are not an issue, try whatever you can, get the converts, and then you can waste your time thinking what I want to take. Instead of telling her I will do only this and not having the convert and then regretting and wasting a year altogether. And in ISB, you won't even have the chance to take YLP again because YLP gives you only one chance. So at least try, get what you have, get the converts, and then decide what you want.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Chinmay, would you like to?
So one extra thing that I would add, Lucky said something that is exactly perfect. You won't want to, count your eggs before they hatch kind of a situation here. But you'd want to know the basic structures. So if you are someone who is confused, just go on to the website of both or multiple institutes and know the ISB structure is something that is very different in terms of the way the structure is aligned. The program is different, the fees, the financial aspect and everything is a little different for IIMs. So you should know about that, have a basic knowledge on how these two categories operate. But again, try to make sure you try for everything and then you can decide once you have all your options open.
Thank you, Chinmay. Monil, would you like to add?
Yeah, so one of the things which I would like to stress is ISB is a 1-year MBA program compared to IIM ABC, which are 2-year MBA programs. And in generally, if the people who prefer IIM are generally the ones who have a low work ex, like the average work ex in ABC would be around 18 to 24 months, whereas ISB has a very high work experience. Like people who are have a, let's say, 3 to 4 years of work ex, they usually prefer ISB over ABC because it's a 1-year MBA course. So it helps them to shift their career in a comparatively smaller time. And even those who are taking the ISB, which is the Young Leadership Program, they have to, even if they get an admit, they can join only after they complete 2 years of their work ex. So it depends on what career stage you are. If you're directly trying to go to an MBA course school after MITS, then it means IIM is the better option. But yeah, if you are you have a plan of getting a work ex of 3 years or something, and then go to MBA, then yeah, maybe ISB makes a better sense to me compared to AD over ABC. Like that's when you have a 3 to 4 years of work ex.
That was really insightful. Okay, this is an interesting question. What is one thing you wish you knew before sitting for the CAT exam? Lucky, you can take this.
Could you repeat the question once?
Yeah, what is one thing you wish you knew before sitting for the CAT exam?
One thing I knew before sitting for the
One thing
CAT
you wish
exam.
you knew.
One thing I wish I knew before I sat for the CAT exam, that 2-hour paper would be really more stressful than I thought actually that was. The thing is, there was a shift from 3 hours to 2 hours. One thing. Like there was a shift from 3 hours to 2 hours, so I thought I will have enough time to solve, but maybe I did not. That's one thing I would have rather wanted to know, that how crazy 2 hours. It's not that I did not practice in mocks and all, but mocks seemed a little bit more. I don't know. It seemed a little more handleable. Maybe that, I don't know. But otherwise, as such, no. I think I had enough experience going into my second attempt.
Yeah, Monal, would you like to add on anything?
Yeah, the shift from 3 hours to 2 hours was a bit tough to get used to during in the last month. But that was manageable. I think for me it was if you're going for an MBA, then the number of hours of sleep you get, like 5 to 6 hours sleep if you're getting in a day during your MBA, that's a good thing. I would have loved to know, it is going to be a huge drop in my number of hours I can sleep. But yeah, that's manageable. I have nothing. Yeah, just do your groundwork properly. There's nothing else I want to add to this.
Yeah, Chinmay.
Probably the first thing I would want to know is the answers and the questions that would come on the next day. But yeah, being serious, this was the kind of exam where we knew we had some kind of backup in case things don't work out, which is not the case for JEE or some exam, because the amount of pressure society puts in or in the educational system in general. So that kind of a free approach to the exam is something that helped me. And if I would have been more freed off and away from all the biases, I could have done even better. So yeah, The basic thing is be away from all the biases, don't have any preconceived notion, and just go with an open mind.
Thank you. Chinmay, you had mentioned about your interview about the cricket. So the next question is regarding that. So what, according to you, would be the ideal preparation strategy for the personal interview stage?
Okay, now again, I'm pretty sure Lucky would be, saying that these is not a kind of question you would want to ask right now. But yeah, just to, have a short answer to it, I would say once you, have your CAT score and your calls, it is one part is the introspection, wherein why do you want to do an MBA? And this is not something purely from an HR perspective, but in life, you need to be clear on what you're going to do. I'm not saying 100%, but at least somewhere around 70 to 80%. So yeah, introspection was one key element that I had to do a lot of time on why I want to pursue, how I want to pursue, and what I expect out of it. Second of all, the kind of general knowledge and current affairs that CAT involves, the interviews involved is something that you want to build from the beginning. So it's not that you pick up a newspaper on the day you get an admit, so a call and say that I'll start reading this newspaper today. So you need to build a habit and opinion or all the events or all kind of things happening around you. This is one another thing. Apart from that, you want to know what your profile is. So, and the interview is pretty much involved how you redirect the questions in your favor. So you're supposed to drive the interview in your strengths and not, take them towards your weaknesses. So for that, you need to know what your strengths and weaknesses are. So you need to understand what your profile is, what part of your profile works for an MBA. There are some parts that maybe don't. So make sure you know yourself well, and then you can drive the interview in your direction. Apart from that, I think as time comes, we'll be happy to help you with that.
Thank you. Monal, would you like to add?
Yeah, can you just repeat the question once more?
So the question was, what should be the ideal preparation strategy for the personal interview stage?
So yeah. So what do you like? What topic you're comfortable to speak about is the thing which matters. So let's not go into much details, but the thing which matters is what topic you're comfortable to talk about. So like for Chinmay, it was cricket. For me, it was football. So I will just give an example, like how much detail they expect you to go into. So in my A interview, they had asked me so I had said that I was a huge follower of a football club and blah blah blah. So they had asked me that I was the scouting guide and I had to buy a forward for my team. How will I use my computer science background plus the managing skills and decide to go and buy a forward for my team, which is probably going to cost hundreds of millions, millions of dollars. And probably I cannot go wrong in that thing. So that was the question, how will I use my computer science skills? Plus my work was majorly in data analytics. So I would use how I would use data analytics and how I would use managing skills to make a decision. So that's the depth they go in the interview itself. And yeah, one more thing, why do you want to go for an MBA? Do a proper introspection. You can't just give an HR answer and you expect it. The people who are taking the interviews are IIM professors, and they really know. When you was just you was just giving an answer for the sake of giving it. So you can't just fake yourself and get into the college. You should know how to. You should really know why you want to go for an MBA. So yeah, that's pretty much about it.
Lucky, would you like to add something?
Could you repeat the question once?
The question was, what should be the ideal preparation strategy for the personal interview stage?
What that for personal self-introspection, like Chinmay already mentioned, that is important. The other thing, right, and this is actually lessons learned from valuation and finance. See, one part of it is or maybe we can take example of Steve Jobs, right? Thing with Steve Jobs is one part of the story is your hard numbers, right? Like your academics and your numbers or whatever. The other very important part is building a story, which is really, really important for personal interviews. So you have to think about, and easier said than done. Take it from me. We are asked this again and in fact, what you're going to do in interview, we are again being asked in MBA once again by our seniors, and it's still an as difficult a job as it is. Maybe a little easier for Bangalore converts because they had to write an entire SOP over this. But yeah, the point is you have to ask yourself, ki abhi from where let's say in my school days and all, what are some key decisions that I've actually taken? What are some key events that have happened in my life, including college, that I am where I am today, 3rd of July 2021. Sometime in August, typically the form comes out. Sometime in January, the calls come out. So till that time, what are the things that I have been through and how have they shaped me as a person? Which of these events are notable in shaping, why I want to do an MBA? These things are something you'll have to think about. These are, so of course, see, there are some parts that are common, right? That you will read newspapers, you will read current affairs, you will read blogs. Most likely, you will follow the budget because budget comes in February. So almost invariably, every interview people ask for something that I'd like to ask about the budget, or some current affairs burning issue. Like this year, the pandemic was quite a bit in focus. The farm laws were quite a bit in focus. The Myanmar issue, the military coup, that was quite in focus. ये तो ठीक है, Suez Canal was eventually in April as FMS interviews came, Suez Canal was quite in focus. ये तो ठीक है, these are common things. Everybody will answer to the best of their abilities. But there are some things that are very distinctive to you, right? You can't. There's something which your confidence can't cover. There's something that's unique about you. So you will have to ask yourself, what are things that I can talk about, which let's say Chinmay Gokhale can't put a stamp on and say it's his name. You can only put my name and put it with his name. There are some unique things. You can't do it with current affairs. You can't do it with commonly known facts. So building that story, if you can, that would be some great person. Which is why these HR questions become important for interviews. See, personally, I'm not a big fan of HR questions, personally speaking, but they are important. And that self introspection, if you can do and build your story, that can help you more than anything else in your. Acha, of course, your acads are important. You do need to prepare for academics if you're a fresher or if you have 1 year of work ex. Especially if you are a circuit branch person, they will ask you your circuits, they will ask you mechanical engineering. They're not going to leave you easy on that. Because these are academics oriented colleges at the end of the day, and they respect anyone with good knowledge of the subjects.
Yeah, that was really insightful. Students, the next question is that the students planning on pursuing an MBA are often confused about whether they should pursue one in India, like at the IIMs or ISB, or abroad, like or at the M7B schools. What is your take on this, and how should they decide between the two? Chinmay, you can go first.
Okay, so I may not be someone who is exactly correct person to go to, because the MBAs abroad typically require somewhere greater than 2 years of work ex. In some countries, 2 might be fine. In some countries, 2 may not be enough as well. Apart from that, there is I'll give different perspectives on what you can think about, right? So this is one thing that I would say is the work ex part. Second is the finances, on how it works out. The fee structure is different. The amount of time you might take to recover that amount of fee is different. There might be financial constraints that someone has, and that has to be one major contribution. But the last thing is based on a very personal opinion, right? Wherein people keep saying that abroad the opportunities are better, you may find more value addition for what you put in and all. There are a lot of things that people keep saying. But it's a very personal opinion whether you would want to move abroad. There are a lot of things that are involved, and it does look, kind of a rosy picture in the beginning, but things may not be that easy. So again, there is no solid way to go about it, but just, follow your heart and things will work out probably.
Yeah, Monal, what do you feel about this?
Yeah, almost Chinmay. So basically, there are a couple of points. Like Chinmay covered them. What's your work experience? If you have 3 to 4 years of work ex, it's better if you go abroad. The second thing is what's your target? Whether you want to go for a job in India or a job in abroad. So if your target is you want a job in US or you want a job in Europe, then maybe you could go abroad for your MBA. From IIMs also you can get a job. Means you can go for a job there, but it will happen eventually. Not directly you graduate from an IIM and you will get a job in on the Wall Street or in London or something. It might happen gradually. But if your target is to you want a job abroad, go for an MBA abroad. And the third thing is about the finance. So the MBAs abroad, cost north of 1 CR, 1.5 CR. So, you should be sure, you want to do this and you are ready to take the financial stress, the financial burden that comes along with it. So you should be pretty much sure. So yeah, 3 things: your work ex, your job preference, and the money you are willing to spend for it.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Also, Lucky, what do you feel that in which year should a student start preparing for the CAT exam?
Yeah. Before that, just on the MBA part, I think the foreign part, one other very, very important thing is you have to think of it as a life decision, right? So if you're going abroad for an MBA, beyond the jobs and then, like I said, right, beyond the numbers, there's a story. One part of the finance is numbers, the other part is you will be leaving your parents, right? You'll be leaving your parents, you'll be leaving your relatives, you'll be leaving everything where you grew from. And why am I telling this? Because my parents had a chance to settle abroad. They are doctors, they had a chance to settle abroad. They were studying in the US. They were doing well for themselves. But then they decide for themselves that there are multiple reasons why it actually makes sense to live in India. One part is, of course, service to the nation. But the other part is, of course, staying close to their family. So if you're a more family person, you may want to think and rethink. Even if you have 3-4 years of work ex, you have to think from a 15-20 years point of view. Now, of course, if you study abroad and you have a relatively medium term view that मैं 2 साल पढ़ूंगा, I'll work for 4-5 years and then I will come back. That is fine. That's a short, medium term view. But if you're looking to settle abroad, right, after MBA, that is something you'll need to put quite a bit of thought in, because you will be leaving a lot of things behind. And the kind of life you'll be living there, you'll get adjusted to that. The kind of pay, of course, the taxes are a lot more. You'll be effectively earning pretty much like an Indian management consultant. But I'm just saying, don't just look at numbers, look at a story as well, look at your future as well that way. Right time to prepare for CAT, I think 3-2 for a single degree and 4-2 for a dual degree guy. Ideally, Jan, Feb is the right time to start, in my opinion. Yeah, sometime Jan, Feb.
Yeah. And Chinmay, do you have anything to say?
No, pretty much what Lucky mentioned. Probably Feb, March will be the good way to start about it. I did not do it that way, but that is something that is advisable.
And Monal?
So yeah, it pretty much comes down to your first mock test, the one you just write just because you want to gauge what's your level. So it comes down to that. If you are already getting a good score of, let's say, 99, about 99 percentile, then you can just focus on other things and start maybe in May or June, July sometime. If you feel like you need to work more, then you can start earlier. It's your call. So just write a couple of papers and you will be able to gauge yourself better.
Parag, you can go ahead.
Yeah. So thank you, Lucky, Monal, and Chinmay, for sharing your journeys with us and clear all the doubts in aspirants' mind. With this, we come to an end of the CAT Champ session. I would like to express our immense gratitude and thank the panels for making today's talk possible.
1 minute. There's one question that I saw in the Q&A. I think we can take a few minutes. There was this question. I'm currently about to start my second year. Okay, very early, interesting. How should I create a timetable and what other things should I keep in mind during your preparation? You can come to your preparation 2 years from now. Also, is joining a finance or important for pursuing an MBA? Now this word important is very nice. I liked why you said important and not relevant. Important if you are interested, otherwise don't just join for the sake of it. See, if you are just going to join and then tell that I was a part of my finance club, doesn't tell much. What tells much more is that I was in my finance club. I'm assuming you mean Wall Street Club. I learned how to invest. I built a valuation model, basic valuation model. I actually invested. So let's take an example. Let's say mid cap stock. Okay, let's say Deepak Nitrite, right? I did valuation of Deepak Nitrite. I invested in Deepak Nitrite. I held for 1.5 years on my investment horizon, and I made a good money out of it. That you can sell, irrespective of whether you are in a finance club or not. Your club will not matter then. So it's good to be in a club, but if you think being in a club will help, your experience will help you much more than being in a club. So is joining good? Yes. Is it important? Not as much as your experiences. But yeah, preparation, you can come back to it at the end of your third year or in the middle of your third year. You don't need to worry so much about it now. This is not IIT JEE. Please don't stretch it more than it requires.
Yeah, then there's one more question, like how do you focus on your CATs as well as placements together? I think Chinmay or Lucky, you both guys, you would be better suited for this question.
Chinmay can answer it, not me. When my placements happened, my CAT first attempt was done. I did not have to focus on it. I think Chinmay can take it on.
Maybe Chinmay, you can answer this question.
So for me, I started preparing for placements around October. So thankfully, what happened was thanks to some case competitions and thanks to a finance minor, I've had a head start as far as some particular domains are concerned in the placement section. So I knew a little bit about it. So I started around October, and CAT happens in November, as we all know. So there was a bit of intersection between the two. So yeah, my placement prep went from October to December, but again, consider that with PS and CAT. So it's not more than an hour a day for sure. After my PS ended and after the CAT result came out, I had a long time to prepare. So that was the main time when I prepared for placements. And yeah, that can be done together. But again, time management is the key. You should not go on for every role that is possible in the market. That is not something that you can do. At the same time, don't go all out on one as well. Keep 2-3 options ready and know what the process involves. And yeah, I think that should work.
Yeah, then there's one question about how important are projects and internships and CG for the interviews. Do they matter? So I think you should be clear that CG matters a lot. We all three of us have stressed a lot about the CGPA. And coming to projects and internships, it sort of shows your skill. Like you are interested in a particular thing and you performed well and you got an end product. Like during a project, you might have created something, you might create a product or something, or you might end up publishing a paper. So that shows that you are a competent person. You start something and you see it to the end, and it gives it's basically a talking point in the interview. So your projects matter a lot. Your internships also matter a lot. They are talking points. Like let's say I had a 9 months of work at Oracle. Means
to find us as well. I'm not insulting any HA, I'm just saying it's not as generic. Should be easy to find us as well.
Find us on LinkedIn, yeah. So contact us via LinkedIn if you have any doubts.
So sure. So with this, we come to the end of our CAT Champs session. I would like to express our immense gratitude and thank the panelists for making today's talk possible. And thank you all for attending this talk. We hope that it provided an insightful session and will help you achieve your dreams. Please fill up the feedback form that has been put up in the chat box. Each suggestion is valuable to us. Good night and all the best.